They said the official deemed that Clark intentionally made contact, therefore a technical foul was assessed. No, you don't. That is a terrible call.
She got fouled twice and pushed into you. If you would have called one of the fouls, this wouldn't have been an issue. But because you are so piss poor at your job, you don't call anything. Now you're forced to, now you're talking, oh, she ran into me with her forearm. It was, what? Call the first 2 fouls, man. She didn't say anything to you. She didn't mean to run into you. She clearly got bumped into you. So what are you giving?
ESPN called up Adam Silver themselves. Like, Adam, you out your fucking mind with this dumbass referee suspending CC? Are you out your dumb mind with this foolish referee suspending CC for my Tuesday game? No.
Caitlin Clark was suspended, then she wasn't. And somewhere in between those 2 sentences sits one of the clearest examples yet of a WNBA officiating crew that seems to have made up its mind about her long before this particular whistle ever happened. Not fined, not benched for a stretch, not pulled aside for a quiet word after the final buzzer. Suspended, pulled from a game against the New York Liberty that was supposed to be one of the biggest matchups left on Indiana's calendar. And then just as quickly unsuspended once the league actually had to sit down and look at what it did.
Play where she gets off balance and she goes into the referee. The referee takes a good 2 seconds and says, you know what, I'm going to hit her with a technical foul. I legitimately think, and the WNBA has since rescinded this would have been her 8th technical foul, she would have missed the next game. I think what I see right there on the screen is the single worst call in the history of basketball. I have never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it's brutal. And you know what's funny? They have now, and again, people are digging up the old clips of that ref actually getting like pushed and bodied and not calling up. And then you got Monica McNutt on that other network being like, I don't know, maybe it was the right call because I saw someone bump into a coach one time. It's crazy. That call was insane. They did rescind it, which is actually shocking. There was another Caitlin technical where she was mad at herself for missing a shot and she like hit the stanchion and she got a T for that as well. So listen, the league is out of control. It's off the rails, and I can't stop watching. I've been preaching now for years that this league is the most passionate. They hate each other, the infighting, the dating, the cultural, the politics. In a league in the NBA where people like LeBron's do pally pals with everybody and everyone's kumbaya, no one really cares. This league, they don't like each other, and it's pretty exciting.
That kind of reversal doesn't happen by accident. And it doesn't happen because a call was simply close. It happens because the original decision was wrong in a way that became impossible to defend once anyone with real authority actually reviewed the footage. Which raises the obvious question that's been following Clark around all season long. If the call was this obviously wrong on review, how did it ever get made in the first place? And why does it keep being her name attached to these moments?
She got fouled. She got bumped into the They think what is that? What is that? First of all, you idiotic ref who probably should be collecting trash on Tuesdays and Thursdays or whichever day your trash men pick up your trash from your curb. First of all, if you would have called the first foul or the second foul, because she got bumped twice on that drive, which sent her into the baseline, which forced her to run into you. If you would have called one of the first 2 fouls, she would have never ran into you.
Here's the play that started it. Clark is moving fast, chasing a loose ball. We're fighting back into bounds after getting bumped off her line, and her body simply cannot stop on command. She makes contact with an official, not because she went looking for one, but because there was nothing else in front of her to run into. Watch it slow, watch it twice, watch it from a different angle, and the story doesn't change. It's not misconduct, it's momentum. It's the most basic, unremarkable thing that happens dozens of times a season across this league without anyone even blinking. And yet somehow for Clark specifically, it became technical foul number 8 and an automatic 1-aim suspension.
And Caitlin Clark had an 8 technical foul rescinded, won't be suspended Tuesday. Yeah, and the ref that did that mess, knowing that shouldn't even been happening. Yeah, let's go and get up out of here. I don't know if referees get licensed or what they get, but let's revoke them. Because at this point, all conspiracy theorists and people that say certain things look to be correct, because it's no way any human being with a brain in you don't even gotta be the smartest, just at least have a brain in your head, know that shouldn't have been a technical. So they either look like you against her, or they look like you.
That's the part that should stop you cold. Not that a foul got called, because fouls get called wrong all the time in every sport on earth. What should stop you is which player it happened to and how quickly the league jumped to the most damaging possible interpretation of a play that any honest set of eyes could see was accidental the first time through. There was no shove. There was no shoulder dipped into the official on purpose. There was a player at full speed, off balance with nowhere left to go. And a whistle that decided intent could somehow be assigned to physics.
Holly Rowe, I'll see you on Tuesday and I'll be playing, is absolutely crazy, but she's right. I mean, and I said in my live, I'm like, it's going to be rescinded. I'm pretty confident it's going to be rescinded. But Caitlin Clark called that shot. She said, I'll see you on Tuesday. Because, of course, Holly asked her about it right after the game. She's like, yeah, it was unintentional contact. I didn't even say anything to her. I said nothing.
Clark herself didn't even react the way you'd expect from someone who just got hit with a suspension over something she didn't do on purpose. No yelling, no dramatic protest, no getting in anyone's face. She said afterward calmly that there was no intent, that nothing was exchanged between her and the official, and that she'd already gone back and watched the play herself before anyone even asked her about it. Watched it and still saw nothing worth a suspension. That composure should tell you something. This wasn't a player losing her cool and inviting a whistle. This was a player who has clearly learned over months of this exact pattern not to expect the benefit of the doubt from these officials anymore, because it almost never comes her way.
Contact after kind of like stumbling a little bit, throwing the ball in, and she makes contact with the ref. The ref assesses Caitlin Clark with a technical, which some would be like, okay, not the biggest of deals. Maybe, you know, go back and try to argue, whatever. But it was number 8, which makes number 8 be the one that will suspend her for the next game. Caitlin told Holly rather confidently, I'll see you on Tuesday. That was the fastest rescinded technical I've ever seen. Oh, I went to
It was like an hour after.
It was like technical, and then as soon as I was like technical rescinded right underneath, I was like, yeah, I think they got it right too. I don't think that there was any intention. Listen, I'm on.
Think about how unusual that is for a second. Most players, when they get hit with a suspension they genuinely believe is unfair, react with at least some visible frustration. Clark didn't. She sounded almost resigned, like she already knew how this particular script tends to go and had simply decided the calmest path forward was to let the tape speak for itself instead of arguing a point she'd already learned officials weren't inclined to hear from her anyway.
You go backwards to them. Did you even know they were there in that moment?
And through the forearm. That too.
Did you know they were there?
No.
Did they give you
really bad.
a different explanation of any kind?
No, that's what I was told. That's what I was told. Yeah.
Was your tech for the argument?
My tech was for saying that, even though I heard the F-bomb the whole game. My tech was for saying that. Like that's a bad call. That's a bad call. Incidental contact when you're flying out of control, like on it. And I thought her teammates should have come up and talked to her about that as well. Like I think that's really bad. That happens all the time in the game. Officials have to have some awareness in those moments, and it didn't happen.
I presume you plan to appeal that one?
Yes.
It's already a deal. I just hope the league makes the right decision. Hopefully I can play on Tuesday. Wednesday, whatever day that is.
Stephanie White wasn't nearly as restrained, and honestly good for her. She called it a bad call flatly standing at that podium with no hedging. Incidental contact, she said, from a player flying out of control who physically could not stop her own body in time. That's not a coach spinning a story to protect her star. That's a coach who has watched this exact scenario play out on her own team so many times this season that she stopped bothering to soften the language around it. When your head coach starts openly accusing the officiating crew of getting it wrong in real time, without waiting for a formal appeal, without checking with the league office first, that's not noise. That's an organization that has run out of patience with getting the short end of every 50-50 call and decided the risk of speaking plainly is smaller than the risk of staying quiet and watching it happen again next week.
Resume with the funniest collection of tees for someone who has 50 uncalled flagrants in 70 games and 22 phantom calls in 17. Clap, all right, she got a technical foul for clapping, right? This is craziness. She got a technical foul for clapping. She got a technical foul for kicking the ball up to herself and then giving it to the referee. If I remember correctly, she didn't kick the ball to the referee. She played with it. She dribbled it a little bit, kicked it up to herself, and then gave it to the referee. Teed up. Fist arm gesture. Teed up. Yelled scoreboard. Teed up. You forgot. She slapped the stanchion sign. Teed up. Now this latest example, she bumped into a referee and she gets teed up.
And this is where the real problem sits, because this technical didn't happen in isolation. It's the 8th one of the season for Clark. And if you actually go back through how she picked up most of them, a pattern jumps out that's hard to explain away as coincidence. A screen levels her to the floor with no call the other way. She says something to the nearest official technical. She claps toward opposing players during a scuffle that everyone else in the building reads as simple frustration, and it gets called taunting anyway.
Clark, and that one is
for
going to
something
above the threshold.
That means she's suspended next game, right?
For Indiana's game Tuesday.
What happened? What even happened?
Really had been focused.
What in the world? What is going on?
To avoid getting that next
I'm so
technical.
lost. Did they just give Stephanie White a tag?
Stephanie White gets one as
What
well.
is happening? Falling.
So Caitlin was
passes.
frustrated that she did not have a foul.
Kind of
called on
touched the ref, I
defender.
guess, but did she say something?
And then it's the other end of the floor where she
Okay.
says something to the official.
Is she out for the rest of this game or just next game or what?
So
she
clearly
falls.
was a foul, was not called.
So she thinks she hit her?
Oh, she didn't even say anything. Was it just because she bumped into the official?
Oh my gosh.
She gets fouled hard repeatedly with nothing going her way at the line. Says so out loud. Technical individually. Maybe you can squint and justify each one. Stacked together across an entire season, they start to look less like consistent officiating and a lot more like a group of referees who have decided the margin for error on this one specific player is smaller than it is for literally anyone else on the floor. 8 technicals is not a small number over the course of a season. It's a number that for almost any other player in this league would trigger a conversation about whether the officiating standard being applied to them is actually fair, rather than a conversation about whether they need to control their emotions better.
Tim Donaghy investigated right now. You're a referee. Why are you not refereeing? What are you looking at? How do you not see Caitlin Clark get bumped and rolled and then bump into you because she got bumped? How do you not see that? And then the first thing you do is not even understand the situation. You say, hey, I understand that Caitlin Clark has the 7 technical. As a referee, you should know that because she's a mainstay in the league who brings a lot of popularity, a lot of fans, a lot of revenue to the league. So you want to be a little bit careful when you give her 8 technical because she's going to be suspended for it. But not this referee. So I need her investigated because why? Because I also noticed Caitlin Clark was getting grabbed and pushed to the ground a lot in the 3rd and 4th quarter, and some of them resulted in turnovers. I'm not going to blame it all on the referee, but I did notice it, and there were no calls. So now I'm thinking about this referee and her quick whistle to say, hey, let's give Caitlin Clark this technical in this game, and I'm saying, little Miss Tim Donaghy might be onto something, but whatever. Let's dive into it.
Now put that next to how the same referees handle everybody else. Players get physical every single night in this league. Players get vocal, get emotional, get in officials' faces during close games, and it doesn't automatically end in a whistle for most of them. But with Clark, it feels like the referees are watching for her reaction more closely than they're watching for whatever caused it. She gets hit, gets no call, reacts to getting hit with no call, and then gets whistled for reacting instead of whoever hit her in the first place. That's not officiating a game fairly. That's not officiating a game fairly. That's officiating a narrative. And it's happened enough times now that calling it a coincidence stopped being a reasonable explanation a while ago. You can watch 2 players commit nearly identical actions in nearly identical situations, and somehow only one of them walks away with a technical on the stat sheet. When that keeps happening to the same player over and over, the burden of proof shifts. At that point, it's not on the fans or the coaching staff to prove bias. It's on the league to explain why it keeps not happening to her.
I mean, and I said in my live, I'm like, it's going to be rescinded. I'm pretty confident it's going to be rescinded. But Caitlin Clark called that shot. She said, I'll see you on Tuesday. Because, of course, Holly asked her about it right after the game. She's like, yeah, it was unintentional contact. I didn't even say anything to her. I said nothing. So, as expected, Caitlin Clark's 8th technical foul, which would have made her a 1-game suspension and would have made her ineligible to play on Tuesday against the New York Liberty, has been rescinded. She's still at 7. She gets to play on Tuesday against the Liberty. Because you could tell it wasn't intentional. Like, yeah, she made contact with the ref, but like she kind of fell into her. And you guys know I'm going to call a spade all the time, even to my own detriment sometimes. That 8th technical by Caitlyn was not warranted, and this rescinded technical is the right call.
And the fans see it. The reaction online after the suspension broke wasn't confusion, it was fury. Because this wasn't some obscure judgment call buried in the 4th quarter of a blowout. This was the biggest star the league has. Getting removed from one of its biggest remaining games of the season over a play that looked accidental to basically everyone watching outside of the 3 people wearing the striped shirts. When that many people watching from that many different angles, watching without any financial or professional stake in the outcome, all land on the same conclusion at the same time, the officiating crew isn't the one who's out of step. The 3 officials who made this call are here's the part that makes it worse. This wasn't just bad luck of the draw or one official having an off night that everyone can chalk up to human error. This is the pattern the entire season has been building toward. And the frustrating truth is that the WNBA has let it happen game after game, technical after technical, music, without stepping in to fix the culture that's producing calls like this one in the first place. It shouldn't take a public firestorm and a formal appeal every single time to get a call reviewed, music, fairly. It shouldn't take Clark's own coach publicly calling out her officials in real time just to get the league office to actually look at a replay. And it definitely shouldn't be this predictable where you can watch Clark get hit, watch her react, and know before the whistle even sounds who's going to get the technical instead of whoever caused the contact in the first place. If this were happening to one player for one game, you could call it an isolated mistake and move on. But this is a full season's worth of the same story repeating itself with the same player at the center of it every time and a league office that only seems willing to step in and correct the record after the backlash gets loud enough to make ignoring it more costly than fixing it.